Hi, everyone. Welcome to Live App Review. This should be maybe episode 25. And I'm here with Vadim and Willem, and we're going to walk through the NFT market repo that you've surely seen by now if you're if you're an active developer on Near and you're interested in NFTs. Would love some feedback on the development experience, the developer experience, and just getting set up with this. And that's what this video is going to be about. We're going to slowly walk through cloning this repository from scratch, very slowly, and then talking about the different pieces of this repo and getting the example app up and running and the contracts deployed. Vadim, do you want to introduce yourself or anything about this?
Yeah, I just want to tell, as in the end of our tutorial, we will have our NFT contract and NFT marketplace. So we can start our own NFT business.
That's right. We can start our own good point. We can start our own NFT business. Okay. So I just copied the Git link there for the repo. So I'm going to open my terminal, and I have everything under projects near apps. So I'm going to go to that directory. I'm going to just make this a little bigger. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to clone this NFT market. I already have a folder for it on my machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually clone it to something else. So I'll do like, NFT market walkthrough, just in case I make a bunch of changes or something. And I want you to know that this is like a fresh install for me. So let's go to the directory. So when we look at the directory, it's pretty much what we had in GitHub, what we were looking at. So the first thing to do is to just do yarn and just install all the packages there. So yay, that was fast. And the next thing is we need to run yarn deploy. And I'm going to go ahead and run that. And then over on the left-hand side, I'm just going to open the folder. So I'm going to go to near apps and I'm going to select the folder. Oh, that always, with the integrated terminal, that always quits what it's working on. But anyway, I'll just resume that yarn test deploy. So what it's doing now is it's compiling these contracts. So if we look at, we'll walk through the package JSON in a sec, but I just want to show you there's three contracts in this repository. Now, the question is, why are there three contracts if we just want to deploy one NFT contract and one marketplace contract? Well, part of having an NFT marketplace is being able to accept fungible tokens. So that's actually the third contract. And this contract is there just in case you want to make some changes to the fungible tokens. So for example, like you might want to make your fungible tokens, have different properties or do different things, a little bit different than the standard. So I left the source in there so that you can actually make those modifications with this repo on the fly. So this repo is like a kitchen sink example. You've got your NFT contract, you have your fungible token contract, and you have your marketplace. And by being able to edit the source for each of those three contracts and then just running one command, yarn test deploy, you can test those contracts against our testnet and use this JavaScript to do your testing, which we're going to walk through in just a sec. So I hope that kind of introduces the structure. There's only one last final thing that we'll look at, which is the source of a sample React app, which sits on top of the already deployed contracts. So at a high level, you have this one repository. It has three different smart contract source code. You build, then you deploy, and then you run your tests against those deployed contracts. So you're basically running these JavaScript tests on testnet, and you're creating different users, you create, an Alice and a Bob, and you run around and you do some preliminary testing of those 3 contracts. And then at the very end, you run your React application on top. So when these tests are done, we'll show the React application, but then we'll go all the way back to the beginning, and we'll start with package.json, and we'll start looking at the scripts that are run when you type something like yarn test deploy. And along the way, we might actually clean up this repo. We might actually add some comments, or we might update the README and make things a little bit more clear. So that's like the high level overview. I'm just waiting for the test to be finished. It does take a while because there's like a big sort of scenario that is being run here where you can read through each of these test titles like it's sort of, token transfers are locked, the owner unlocks all the token transfer. Like there's sort of token locking and unlocking, which is not standard, by the way, but it's just like a little addition that I made to sort of demo. Get sales, Bob purchases NFT with Near, just scrolling through very quickly. Contract owner makes a low bid. Alice outbids the contract owner. So we actually check if the contract owner gets back. So there's a comment here, contract owner gets back 1 Near minus some gas. So at least 0.9 Near, like things like this. So the tests are basically making sure that everyone gets what they expect to get from the marketplace and from their interactions with the marketplace. There's, of course, bidding, outbidding, and a lot of other kind of interesting things happening all throughout this test file. So I think we're almost done with the tests here. There's some retrying of the transactions because for various sort of like networking reasons, sometimes I'm just, we're testing against testnet pretty hard, and for whatever reason, maybe it's my internet or something because I'm recording to the cloud right now with Zoom. But anyway, eventually they should all pass. I've tried to adjust all of the testing parameters and stuff to make sure that we can just sit back and have the test run. It took 217 seconds, so that's like almost 4 minutes. Not great. If you just edit the test, though, you could run yarn test, and then it won't be going through like a full redeploy, and it'll skip some of the contract initialization steps. So now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start a React app development server. So I'm going to basically start a React app. So my contracts are deployed. Alice and Bob and the contract owner have run around and they've initialized the contracts and done a bunch of sales and done some sort of stuff. And now I'm going to start a React app that basically also talks to the contract, but this is the interface on top. So this is just the interface, and you can see that there's these, by the way, these are like these test accounts. So I should have just called them Alice and Bob. In fact, that's one of the things we can fix. So this will be like a whole new world. Maybe developers like Vadim will breathe a sigh of relief because I can actually use, this is from test utils. So I have a get account method, and I'm pretty sure I can pass in an account ID, and it will use that account ID. And if it doesn't exist, it will create it anyway. So I'm going to pass in an account ID. So I'm going to use the same naming convention that I used for market. So let me just kind of take a step back, actually. Before I jump into making edits and calling this account Alice and this account Bob and naming them after this weird dev account, maybe you need to know about what is the dev account and why would we name our sub accounts off of the dev account? I'm going to answer the question. It's because every time we make an edit to our contracts, we need to redeploy our contracts. And personally, I redeploy them to a brand new dev account. And so my marketplace, my stable coin, and my guest users, or not guest users, but my simulated sort of testing users need to all kind of be able to be kind of referenced off of this one unique NFT contract. So let's take a look at what that looks like in this package.json. So we run test deploy. And I'm going to actually use a technique that I was interviewing Sharif, our education sort of guru, and he pulled these out yesterday as he was sort of going through this example. So you pull out test deploy, and what happens next? You see that two different yarn, well, npm kind of scripts, package.json scripts, whatever you want to call them, two different scripts get fired off. That's dev deploy and yarn test. Okay, so test is here, but that doesn't happen until later. So now we have to go to dev deploy and we have to grab that. So what happens in dev deploy? Well, let's grab the whole thing actually, just so we have the label. So what happens in dev deploy? We build contracts. So what happens in build contracts? Well, we have to go do that, right? And then there's this patch config here before we can get back to test. Okay, so let's walk through these. It goes one, and then it splits into this set. So two sets of scripts here. And I'll just put a 2 here. So let's walk through all of these and explain kind of what's happening. So this is like sort of the entry from our bash command. We say test deploy, and then this happens, and then this is part 1, and this is part 2. Not so easy to see there, but basically we're going to go through these. So dev deploy, what happens? We build the contracts, which we jump down here, and we do, what we're doing is we're going in and out of each contract folder. And the reason why I don't use fancy brackets here or anything is because I need Windows compatibility, because we have some users that are Windows. And this whole, I know you can do like fancy bracket crap, like this, but that doesn't work on Windows. For some reason, it doesn't back out of the directory. So we're just doing the same thing 3 different times. And let's take a look at one of the build.shs, while we're here as an example. So we build the NFT contract like this. And all we need to do is make sure that the directory exists. So we need this output directory here, and this is in the root of our project. So we're backing out of NFT simple, and then we're backing out of the contract folder, and we're making the out directory. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our WASM contract that gets built from this cargo build command. It generates a WASM file in this release folder for the WASM32 unknown, because we basically said cargo build me what? Build me a release, and build me a release for which target operating system, this WASM32. So WASM32 release, and then there's you can check it if you want. There's this file. Well, actually, is it there? Oh yeah, it's here under WASM32 unknown. Yeah, there we go. Release, and it's here. NFT simple.wasm. So it takes whatever .wasm file got generated, and it puts it into out. Again, back out of NFT simple, back out of contracts, go into the out folder, and put it in and call it main.wasm. Why do I call it main.wasm? I don't know, because it's the main contract. Some of these are arbitrary decisions. So let's go back to here, and we've done that 3 times. And as you can see in the out folder, we copied all of our generated WASM into this out folder. We have fungible token and market. Okay. So then once we're done build contracts, first we do something else here. So I want to explain this line. So I've explained this before to other developers and on some videos. What we want to do is we actually want to destroy this near dev folder, and we want to get rid of any sort of reference to it, because we want a new developer account. And when we call near dev deploy and we just put the sort of or exit 0, whatever, we're just trying to run near dev deploy. And if it doesn't see a near dev folder, it will create a new one, and it will create a new developer account on testnet, which means that I'll get a fresh account. I'll get 200 near tokens or whatever the funding amount is. and I'll be able to start running my tests. So why do I keep creating new dev accounts and deploying contracts? Because I don't want to run out of gas, and I just want to be lazy. I just want to know that this is going to work no matter what. If I just hit yarn test deploy, that's all I want. I want this to go from, from the cleanest possible starting point to run through this app.test.js folder or file. So that's why I create a brand new test account. There's other people that, they tear down their old one and they delete the account and then they remake the same account or something. That's cool too. Whatever you want to do. So then we get to yarn patch config. So there's this config.js folder that exists in the application source directory. Now what this does is this gives your application, and likewise by JavaScript tests, some information about the current contract account. So you'll notice that this account is the same as this account, right? So they're the same. And how did this number get into this config.js file? Like, how is this rewritten? Well, that was happened here in this patch config. And I've also been told, this is a bad way to do this, just a direct regex and then just like copy over this contract name. But you know what? It works. So let's not reinvent anything. I mean, it's just simple, right? So we go and we get the contract name by doing a read file sync on the dev account. So we grab that string from this file, and then we just put it's sitting in Node right now at this point. And then we get a path to source config, and we just open up that file, we regex it, and we replace it. And then we just write it out and we're done. So patch config is done. So it basically patches the config file. Lastly, we come back and we run part number 2 here, yarn test. So what do we do here? Well, for the Windows users, I had to start using and adopting this cross-env. So we want to set environment variables and we want to happen in a cross environment way. So I had to use cross-env here. And then we run jest, and I want to use the standard error output. So I want to basically log console warning, like console.warn and stuff like that. I just want to see it in my console. So that's why it's set up like that. So that is yarn test deploy. So that's a lot of stuff. But it's not bad, right? Like, I mean, it's not terrible. Let's do this though. Let's move these in the order that they get called, because that would be a little bit of an improvement. And maybe we should move yarn test deploy all the way up to the top, because it's like one of the most important methods that you'll use. Probably you'll use the most frequently. So there's patch config is the last one. And I have a patch deploy config because I was deploying some stuff. It's not important to cover right now. So build contracts, and then after you create the new dev account user, you want to patch the config. Okay, and let's move all of this up to the top. And let's get rid of this and make sure that we don't have any errors in our package.json. Space it out a little bit. We've got pre-start, start stuff. I don't even use these unit tests, but you should, right? If you're doing like something specific inside Rust, and you want to make sure that, like, value in equals value out, you should use unit tests for sure. And yeah, this test server, it's not even there anymore, so don't worry about that. And then yarn test will just run the tests against if you change app.js and you don't want to create a new dev account and you don't want to redeploy your contracts, you'd use this. And then the rest is for deploying. So I think that's pretty good for now.
But just to confirm, those NFT which we find when you load the application, it's new NFT created by tests on a startup,
yes.
right? So
that
if
is a
you,
good point.
because
These,
this is what I was
we're not
confused
running it.
when I loaded your app today and I saw a lot of NFTs. I said, okay, maybe it's something what you did before on your different apps, and I just connected to this account and I have to redeploy everything from scratch. And actually, that's what I did. So if
Actually,
I want
yeah,
just
hang on, hold on.
okay,
Look. See, for testing front end, the last test is Alice has a lingering sale in the marketplace. Lingering means like it's just hanging. Like it's like Alice is like, I want to sell my NFT, but nobody buys it. And so her NFT is just sitting in the marketplace. And then there's a previously sold NFT in the marketplace. So you're right, Vadim. These NFTs are a byproduct. Let's go to that app again. These NFTs that appear here are a byproduct of the application tests. Yeah, and it's because like I'm lazy, right? Like I want to make an app and I want to know, I want to see it an NFT that's already for sale, and I want to see one NFT that is not for sale, and then that way I could just test my UI, you know, and I can do stuff like this. I can look at just sales or all NFTs. And I understand it was confusing for you, so sorry about that.
No, and if I will run just yarn deploy, it will do the same procedure but without test NFTs. Am I right?
So yarn deploy is an interesting one. It does not actually deploy. Okay, so yarn deploy, that's a good question, Vadim. Excuse me. Yarn deploy actually only deploys the front end. So that's a good question. I don't actually have a script that is just designed to deploy contracts to, for example, like to mainnet, but not do any tests. I don't have that kind of a script. It doesn't exist in this repo. So what exists in this repo is only for I guess running test deploy against testnet and initializing a bunch of, initializing your contracts with a bunch of junk and then just deploying them. However, let me preface that by saying that
what if you will introduce new function to delete test NFTs in the end?
Well, yeah, but I mean, nobody deletes NFTs, right? They're supposed to be, forever, right? But I'm just going to write everything in here would be used for deploying and then I'm just going to put skip all tests. Whoops. Well, here, almost. So almost all of this code can be used to deploy, but you see, I'm making a bunch of arbitrary decisions, right? So again, like this, it's kind of like, I hate to give like a sort of a cheap answer here, but it's up to the developer to go through and to understand these contracts, right? It's not quite a push button like operation. Like it's a push button operation if you want to end up with an NFT marketplace like this, and with like I have token types, I have all sorts of crazy sort of scenario specific settings. But we should walk through this. And just while I do that, I'm gonna just quickly change this a little bit. I'm gonna put Alice ID and Bob ID up here, and I'm just gonna put Alice dot, and you'll see why, because I want to end up with Alice and Bob, not these stupid names. This is like a byproduct from me doing some testing a long time ago. I just needed like auto-generated account names. So that's Alice, and then we're going to do one for Bob. And the last thing to do would be to pass these, whoops, that's wrong. Bob is here. Pass these into this get account function, and that should create users. So what I do is, again, like, I mean, you know, your mileage may vary, but I'm gonna run all new contracts, all new tests, all new account, and just let it go. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that instead of getting test accounts that start with T, you know, date.now, I actually want to get Alice and Bob. So I want to see Alice and Bob, and they're going back and forth, because that'll make it a lot easier for you as a developer to like debug this, right? I can't tell you how many times, I actually should have done this a long time ago, because I can't tell you how many times I've like squinted at my screen being like, wait, is it, you know, account T157, blah, 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 blah. Did they transfer to this person, and did this person pay this person? Like, there's all sorts of royalties and things going on. But anyway, I'm rerunning the test because I just want to make sure that they work. While that's running, it looks like it's going to work. So that's a nice fix that we can have forever now. So while that's working, let's go all the way back to the beginning, and let's take a look at this app.test.js. So we have a bunch of imports and a bunch of like sort of test configuration stuff. What's really important is that we jump into basically deploying a very particular NFT contract, and that is the one that maps to the dev account. So that's this dev account here. Oh, it keeps flying by, but you can see it, this dev something. So that's the dev account. The dev account is going to become the NFT account. And then I'm going to create two sub accounts off it. The stable coin that I call it, that's my fungible token. It doesn't have to be a stable coin. It could just be any fungible token. But I create one called stable.dev account, and then I have market.dev account. And then from those accounts, you just saw me create Alice and Bob, right? Oh, I think I know why this is gonna fail, actually. It's gonna fail if you rerun the test, because then Alice is the same and Bob is the same, right? So it's like, I think I should just do something. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna be really cheap here. Anyway, if you run yarn test without redeploying the contracts, you're going to get the same Alice and the same Bob, and that's not going to work because they need to be new accounts. Otherwise, they run out of gas to pay for all of their stuff, right? So anyway, long story short, don't worry about it. I'll just have a dot syntax, so it'll go like alice.date.now.dev account. So don't worry about it. That'll be fine. Okay, but let's jump into the actual setup here. So deploy contract dev account. So I have a whole bunch of like special kind of convention stuff. Even on token types, I have something got messed up here. I don't know what happened. We'll have to check that out in a sec. So deploy contract dev account. Even for token types, I choose a special delimiter. So between well, that's actually for sales. It would take a long time to get into that, but let's just assume I've made some choices here about how my metadata should look. I've made some choices about how my token types should look, and I create you know, a bunch of token IDs. I set the contract royalty. Like, these are all just sort of kind of like constants that I kind of made up for my test scenario. We'll have to jump into why that failed in just one sec. Then before all the tests, basically I call a init contract. That comes from this test util. So if you go into this init contract, basically we're just initializing an NFT contract. So we're giving it a token called test that has a hard cap on its supply of 1 million test NFTs. So one thing that I have in my NFT contract that's different from the standard is I have the concept of token types, and I have hard caps for those types that cannot be exceeded, not even by the owner of the NFT contract. So if the owner of the NFT contract says, I want to create a new NFT type, and the type is like type A, and they say there's only going to be 100 type A tokens, then the owner of the NFT contract can't even exceed that. So they'll never be able to mint a type A 101 edition. So that's kind of what's going on there. So we saw creating Alice, creating Bob. Then we create, well, we don't create, we get the contract account, we set the royalty, we set the supply caps by type. So you'll see that for the first token type, I'm setting a supply of 1. So it's a very exclusive NFT. And you'll see in subsequent tests that I'm actually testing to make sure that I cannot exceed that. And I'm actually testing it. I'm trying to mint as the owner of the NFT contract myself. And even I can't mint over my own supply cap once I've committed it to the blockchain. So that's cool. So I add all these token types, and what's the sort of setup for here? It's actually just a hash map. So these just turn out to be strings. So if you actually printed this out, it would just be these token type names, and then like :1, like that. So that's what ends up getting sent to the blockchain. So you initialize all of those supply caps and token types. So now we get into the 2 other contracts that we're deploying. We're deploying a contract for a fungible token that I call the stable token. It's a simulated fungible token for this test only. It's just to make sure that you can buy and sell NFTs with standard near fungible tokens. So what I do is I go get the stable account, and I use a special helper here, create or init account, and then I have to pass in a secret key, because every time I run this contract, I need to actually be talking to the same stablecoin contract related to the same NFT contract, right? So if all the tests are to work properly, I need the same NFT contract, the same stablecoin contract, and the same marketplace if I were to just run the tests again. Otherwise, I have to deploy all new contracts, and I have to sync them all up again. And the reason why is because there needs to be an owner. That should actually just be contract ID, same thing as contract name, but those are aliases. So basically, I go get some contract bytes, and I just deploy the stable account contract bytes. So I'm just deploying basically a contract, and I'm setting up a bunch of stuff for my stable coin. So it's a test stable coin. I call it TSC. That's it. Just some junk, like just some junk, contract. It's like the test token on an Ethereum Ropsten or something, like give me money, give me 1 million tokens, right? So then the actions here are to deploy the contract and to initialize it by calling the new method with the arguments that I talked about here. Then we sign and send that transaction, and then we go get things like, so in near, we got to pay storage amounts for account balances and stuff. And then I pay the storage minimum for there's a bunch of accounts on testnet, like A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. I think I created them a long time ago. Somebody did, because they were lazy and they just wanted to have a bunch of test accounts. So they exist on testnet, they're real. So what I'm doing is I'm just approving that they can receive fungible tokens, because they're going to be used in a subsequent test as royalty receivers of fungible tokens. So then I do that all kind of in parallel, and then I just wait for all those promises to finish. This is interesting. If the fungible token contract was already deployed, so you remember I have this create or init account. So if the stable account exists and the stable account code hash is not all these ones is just like the empty hash, like a SHA empty hash. So basically, if there's already contract bytes, contract code deployed to the stable account, I will skip over that and I will, I'll just do a little bit of kind of housekeeping stuff, which means that this probably happened already as well. So for these accounts, they're already covered for the storage minimum. So anyway, now on to the market account. So we're switching to the market account now. Maybe I should put a big comment here. Actually, I have like I made a new macro for myself, a new little key shortcut. Where is it? Maybe I didn't save it. I thought I did. I think maybe I got rid of it because you can just do this. Oh, what did I do now? I like locked my keyboard. Oh, there we go. I had a screenshot tool up. Oh, there we go. No, I did include it. Okay, so that one says like now we're going to deploy the market contract and connect it to the NFT contract ID and the FT contract, which is stable dot contract ID. Okay, so you're kind of starting to see how this is all like parameterized. You know, it's like all parameterized so that it like snaps together, right? So we want to bring these all together. When we deploy the market contract, it's a lot like the stablecoin contract. We only want to deploy it and initialize it if it hasn't already had code deployed to that account. So what we do is we come through here, we have new market arguments. So this default here, FT token IDs, we set it up here. This is the default option. So we want to initialize the market with all of the fungible tokens we want to support for transactions. So that's what we do there. So that's new market arguments. Again, it's a bulk action, deploy contract, call the new sign and send transaction. Okay. Now the market must register for all the FT token IDs it wishes to use. So it needs to pay its own storage deposit. It'll be a little bit more clear if we do that. So just market account goes and gets the storage minimum balance for each of the FT token. I'll rename this because it'll be a little bit easier to understand. That's my shorthand. Sorry. Close that for a sec. So FT token IDs for each, grab the fungible token ID and then get the storage minimum balance and then pay it on behalf of ourselves, the market. So we're just registering for fungible token storage. Now, lastly but not leastly, just do a bit of a sanity check. So get all supported tokens in the marketplace, and we should be able to see our supported tokens here. Market supports these fungible tokens. Added, so we try to add them again, and it should actually be an array of false, which indicates that we added like no more new fungible tokens. But I just wanted to test that the method exists and we can still call the method. And finally, find out how much is needed for market storage. So when you want to sell something on this marketplace, you can't just spam the contract with a bunch of sales. You have to actually pay a deposit for each sale you want to add. So in this sense, I'm just getting that amount. That's it. So now we begin the scenario. So we begin sort of testing the NFT enumerable tests. And this is with no tokens, so these should all come back 0, 0, 0. NFT contract owner mints NFT and approves a fixed price near sale. I'm going to reword that: a sale for a fixed amount of near. Okay. So then the royalty friends or the royalty holders for perpetual royalties, they get added to the NFT that is minted. So the creator, the contract owner, is creating an NFT and telling it that these people need to be paid some percentage. Like this is 2.5%, 2.5, 2.5, 2.55. So, excuse me, I had a couple extras there too. So we go ahead and do that. Then we provide, so we want to put the NFT up for sale. So we provide some sale conditions, and then we try to approve the NFT, and then we get the sale information, and we should be able to check that the sale condition.near, that this NFT is up for the price of 1 near. So this price should equal this price. So, and then the minting, I think the minting fee, it requires you to spend some near. You're going to get most of that near back. You just have to cover the NFT storage, minting storage. So I could do something like this just to make it a little cleaner. And just make that the price, and then check to make sure that the sale condition. So sale.conditions.near. So the near value should basically be the price. So it's like a hash map, and that's the price. I actually I passed this in as an array of a struct of fungible token ID and price, but I theoretically I could have just passed in a hash map. So this whole thing, sale conditions, could have been really a lot more simple. It could have just been that. I don't know why I did that with my marketplace. I can't remember, but I think it had something to do with being able to set an optional price. So being able to do something like this, which would mean that your price is an option at this point, and it's open for bidding. Excuse me. So yeah, so that's one test. I don't want to go through all the tests because it's going to be a long one. But you know, you'll have to kind of walk through the test yourself. But I think we covered the important points here, and we've got some of the startup stuff going on. Now let's, I'm just kind of curious, let's see what happened with our errors here. Oh, transaction expired. So it had nothing to do with changing the Alice and Bob. Remember back at the beginning when we changed their account IDs? So let's run the test again, and we'll do an example of not redeploying the contracts, but just running the test, and let's just see what happens. I don't know why the transaction timed out or whatever that was. Could just be like a networking thing. So yeah, so sometimes like for whatever reason, so the blockchain is fine, but it's the RPC networking layer that we still provide as like a service to developers. That can have some issues, and that can either be on your end or their end, because you could be kind of sending a request and not getting a response back for quite some time. I think it's starting to have quite a bit of errors here. Yeah, the whole thing just exploded at this point. Let me try redeploying the contracts actually. We'll see what's happening. And if this doesn't work, we'll just wrap it up. I don't know what's going on. So testnet could theoretically also be having actual trouble on testnet, because that's where we deploy new stuff. So we deploy like some change to the core protocol, and it might actually literally crash everything. So that could be the case, just for fun, right? It looks like we're just getting failures across the board here, unless it's really something that I did with the account IDs, but I don't think so. Oh, new account Alice cannot be created. Yeah. Okay, it is something that I did. Okay, because it's too much. It's 2 levels deep a sub account. That's why. Okay, so we need to do Alice dash and Bob dash. That's why. Okay, so yeah. So I messed up because I was trying to create a sub account, but you can't create a sub account unless you're the sub account. So yeah, it shows how much I know. It's all just trial and error. What's up, Vadim? That was a long one, huh? I saw you kind of lean back a little bit. You almost got taken out by all of the test talk.
No, it's very interesting. I just said for a long time today. So what I want to ask, if we have several minutes now, what shall we do if we will want to deploy this contract to the mainnet later on? So we will not deploy fungible token for sure. What is the difference?
So really, actually, that's a great question. The only things that we need to do is we actually just need to basically deploy and initialize the NFT contract. So that's actually, unfortunately, it's done in this test util thing over here on the side. I'll just make this bigger. I think those are going to go through actually now, but it's kind of cool because we'll be able to see Alice and Bob here. I don't know. So we'll just, at least we'll know who's who. Here's Alice dash Bob dash. Yeah, so that'll help. And why did I give them the timing things? It's because if I rerun the tests, it's the same dev account, but it needs to be a new Alice and Bob. Okay, so yeah, to answer your question, deploying to mainnet, that's really, or just deploying to testnet, like a new testnet account. So special, like, you know, Vadim's NFT shop.testnet, right? So what you need to do is you need to log in. You probably want to do it with the CLI, or you probably want to, if you want to do it with JavaScript, you can. What you would have to do, oh boy, you'd have to do a few different things. So you'd have to create some JavaScript file, call it like, you know, deploy.js. I'm going to copy a bunch of this stuff. Well, just the top part, actually. You'd have to load in your config file. You'd have to copy some credentials or something. Like you'd have to get these in somehow. So let's say they're in your, like, your environment variables. So it's like, what is it in Node? It's like process.env. You know, deploy account secret. So you'd have to do something like that. And then you can use this test utils file. So you could still use that I have. And what we would do is we'd go down here and we would do this, create or init account. So we'd have to put in an account ID of some account we already know. So like Vadim NFTs.testnet. So, but let's actually take this out and let's do this something like this, like deploy account ID. I'm just going to assume that it is in fact this, or something, like we'll just do this. So account. You'll see what I'm doing here in a sec. So this is just rough, like, pseudocode. I'm not going to finish the whole thing, but basically, what I'm saying is you can use this helper. So you can use this helper to basically deploy contract bytes. So what we can do is we can go and we can look at, as an example, we can look at how we got these bytes. Fungible token bytes. We just did that. So we can just do this whole thing actually, like this. So we could create a script and then we can just run it with Node. So let's get rid of all this junk that we're not going to use. Something like this. It looks a little bit better. And then you just do something like this, like deploy account secret. So you need to get this into your app somehow in a secret way. You know, I don't know what you want to do. Well, you could just copy that over here. It's only going to be used once, but this is used a few times. Well, twice or once actually. So you could just do this if you want. So just assume that, you know, we're going to use this account and it's here and the secret for it is here. So that's all we really need to know about that account. And now the NFT contract, what is it called? It's called main.wasm. And so what we do is we want to actually use this kind of a new args thing. So just swap this out for this. And then swap out new args here. Okay. Oh, gas we're going to need from the config. So we're going to have to still pull in this. We still use gas amount. And that's just like 200 teragas or whatever. So it's like, it's pretty stupid. Like you can, you know, you can set it yourself, or you can set it with your environment if you want. So then we start with our NFT. Let's say we don't want to do this. This is optional argument. So we just get rid of that. We call it redeem NFTs. VNFT has a nice sound to it. VNFT. V for vendetta. V for NFT vendetta. So then we call new.
Could you remind me,
arts.
please, Matt, where will we see this symbol in galleries or where?
Yeah, it's whoever wants to read it. So you can read the NFT metadata. So you could just like call it and then you can get it. But it's whatever. I think the reason is that we're thinking long term about you know, NFT indexes, NFT galleries. Everyone's going to need to have some sort of way to identify your token. So we're not quite there yet with the ecosystem stuff, but we're literally exploding with developers who want to release these NFT contracts. By the way, Vadim, this is a really good. It's already like kind of a good script. I might actually put this over in like utils. So I'm actually going to move it, and then it should rewrite that for me. Okay. So cool. So I'm gonna think about this, and then I'm gonna put that out there and be like, hey, here's your deploy a fresh one, right? And then what I'll do is I'll add the market here too. So I'll add like a so that's something that we can do. It's kind of boring if I finish it up now and kind of debug it and test it and stuff, because we'll keep deploying and deploying and deploying. But plus I'll have to find an account that I can essentially just drain because I'll have to use all of the near just deploying the contracts if I run into like sort of initialization issues. But yeah, that's that. So that's all you need. And it comes down to needing these two pieces of information, an account ID, and then you need an account secret that you can deploy with. Now, a lot of people would look at this, maybe some experienced CLI junkies like Eugene or Mike Purvis or something, and they would go, oh, God, oh, you're going to deploy your contracts with a node script? How primitive, right? Maybe maybe they'd say that, I don't know. But what you can also do is you can also just call all of this stuff, like using the command line.
I can send you scripts. I did it today with near CLI.
Oh,
do you want?
Yeah, I mean, you should actually, yeah, you should, if you can copy all the commands and then share them with me, that would be cool, because we should offer different flavors, because it's doing the same thing, but it's helping developers learn from different approaches. But I think that's a good question, Vadim. I think right now we've gone over the tooling extensively. The tests did still run, by the way, with the Alice and Bob, and if I relaunch the market right now, by the way, we'll see those NFTs for sale. But of course, now we're looking at a different contract, but we can see that it's Alice. The royalties are paid to Bob for this one, and this one is owned by Alice, but not for sale. So that's kind of cool. So, you know, I think we went through it pretty extensively already. So I'm going to stop recording unless you have another question about this, but I think it was a good tooling walkthrough.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. So thanks for the question today. And just helps me explain some of my choices. I think I'm going to work on the deploy script for Node. And then if I can get your scripts as well, or sorry, your commands, I can put them into like just into the README or something, and we can document this a little better.
Yeah, I sent the chat. We can add. There are 5 commands, so I create a sub account for market, and then to pair of deploy and pair of initializations. It's quite
Cool.
simple. And I
I
have
figured
proposal.
I figured you already did this all.
Yeah, because I didn't realize why I have a lot of pictures in my brand new contract, and maybe that's my second proposal. Maybe we can replace them with like NFT. Oh, sorry, like test picture. So to not
You don't like my test NFTs? They're
yeah,
cool,
I like,
man.
but I didn't realize that they are tests because there is no any hint about testing reason of that NFT. So that
Yeah, I
was
know.
my
I just wanted to make your life difficult, man.
okay. No
Okay.
props. Just
Okay,
yeah.
so I'm gonna stop recording now.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll put this one up. I think it's super useful. It's exactly what I actually went over with Sharif, and you know, you obviously went over this on your own this morning, and we can combine these techniques and just I guess the number one thing I'd leave, you know, the audience with is that this is our goal. Like, we want this kind of feedback. We want you to send us your deployment strategies, your scripts, your testing code. You know, we want you to send us your errors, because this is what the developer relations team does. We're just trying to make your experience and your path to a deployed app on either testnet, mainnet, whatever, shorter. You know, we're just trying to shorten everybody's experience. I'm always constantly trying to have the shortest experience possible so I can focus on the actual contracts and the application development. So thanks for tuning in. And thank you, Vadim, for awesome questions.
Yeah, thank you, man, for great contract applications.
Well, I don't know about great contracts, but
yeah,
you know, I try.
Okay. Okay.